Well, hello. It's time for another exciting episode of Pens in Use. This is the show where I talk about the fountain pens and inks I've been using throughout the week. And this week I'm headed to Fargo. I actually am in my classroom. It's the calm before the storm because I got here before the students so I could lay out everything for my sub. And then the chaos starts in about 15 minutes. So I will build this out of bits and pieces of footage patched together probably through this camera and the nice camera I'm taking with me to Fargo. So let's do some Science Olympiad and look at some pens. So if videos like this interest you, where I talk about fountain pens both new and old and at all price points, I invite you to subscribe. And hey, got anything exciting going on? I am recording this part after Science Olympiad is over. So we'll tell you how it went at the end, but don't have a lot of me talking footage, so I might have to film some of that at home. But anyway, let's dive into some pens and some Science Olympiad. The worst part about driving to Fargo with 16 teenagers is it's a 6-hour drive to Fargo. And at this time of year, that's what it looks like. Here's a couple of the projects. You can see Scrambler, air trajectory there. I had to listen to the Scrambler rattle for 12 hours. With that as my view out the window. Luckily I read, so I did lots of reading on the way. Brought a book and several ebooks, and yeah. Stopped at a rest stop. Tip if you're traveling with teenagers or kids, stop at rest stops, not gas stations, because then they don't buy stuff to fuel up to have to stop again. And just more North Dakota scenery, and we're not even to Bismarck yet. 3 hours. 3 hours to Bismarck, so here we are in beautiful scenic Bismarck, North Dakota. You can see the Missouri River here. That railroad bridge is going to come down. There's been some people filed some court cases trying to get it saved, but it's going to come down. It's been here since the 20s. It can't handle modern rail traffic. And the new bridge is going to go right beside it. Whatever your feelings are, I don't have a horse in the race. I don't care if it comes down or stays up. I think they're cool, but I know why they're coming down. But yeah. And you keep watching, and of course, now we're on the east coast of the river. You'll see the Capitol building way in the distance there. It's a skyscraper, 17 stories tall. But anyway, 6 hours of driving to get to Fargo for Science Olympiad, which is a competition in science, testing events, building events. Eastern North Dakota looks like this, which is much flatter. So yeah, the last 3 hours of the trip are more like this. Sorry, it's North Dakota, but we ate at the West Acres Mall. There's a food court there in Fargo. Also, some interesting stuff. Here's the Roger Maris Museum in the mall. I think they've started to realize at this mall that, retail isn't enough. So this is an interesting use of space, this Roger Maris Museum. I don't care about Roger Maris, but if you're into that kind of thing, hey. Here's this artists complex that they've put into some kind of unusable rooms in the mall, which is interesting. And then there's a lot of art displayed of various types. And that gives you a reason to come to the mall. I've read about towns that are displaying art and having art galleries and things, and that gets traffic to downtown. So it's good for the West Acres Mall for supporting local artists. I'm sure a store in this space could pay more, but probably in today's retail market, they can't get the stores. So I'm glad to see that they're doing this. So, just some very interesting art of all kinds throughout the mall, which definitely makes it worth a visit once a year just to see the changes in the art. Here's an interesting birdhouse display from NDSU School of Architecture. They had to make these birdhouse, I think it was architecture students anyway, had to make these birdhouses for clients, which were specific species of bird. Definitely out of the box thinking as they make these birdhouses. I thought it was a fun project. And then I loved this fountain. I sat and read by this fountain for quite a while. I always do. I'm not a shopper. It's rare that I spend any money at this mall. If I do, it's not going to be on this trip. But I do enjoy sitting with the sound of this fountain going as I read and kill some time with kids so we're not back at the motel being loud and annoying. Alright, so these are actually this is not pens yet. This is what I took with me to Fargo. When I travel, I often am not traveling to write. I mean, I might as well write at home where it's cheaper. I'm traveling to see something, or in this case, supervise 16 teenagers. So, yeah, not doing lots of writing, but I like to have a couple of pens with me. So this is a small pen case. I think somebody gave it to me. I don't remember buying it. Might have bought it, I don't know. It's a small, I'm not even sure if it's real leather. A little small pleather case. It's got a little tag in it that says that made in India, and that's about all I have. And it contains 4 pens. Not perhaps the most protected, but decently protected from scratches and whatnot, so I like it. One thing I always appreciate about NDSU is it has such cool spots. My college didn't have these neat conversational view areas. It was mostly older buildings. It had been modernized a lot, but not when I was there. And I just love this STEM building, the view from it, and just the idea of hanging out up here. I don't know if I would have, but it's a neat idea to think about. And part of why I take my kids here is I know we're not going to beat Bismarck or Fargo and go to nationals, and we couldn't afford to even if we did win. But I think it's good for my kids to see a research university. And this STEM building is a beautiful place to inspire you to, hey, let's do science and maybe attend a university far, far, far from home. So that's why I keep doing it. Since I was on the road, I took this notebook with me. Yeah, I don't know what brand it is. I think I picked it up in Books A Million in Rapid City, South Dakota, but brand name, don't know. I wrote some stuff in it, so we'll hide that. But, I also took along my Remarkable tablet to do some writing, so, there is that. So I did a lot of writing on the Remarkable tablet. That's kind of become my go-to for notebooks, for, especially for work. I gotta remember this for next year type stuff. You might remember the last time I used this notebook, I had some trouble, so let's just see how it goes. So this is, here's what the day it's supposed to be. April 20th, 2024. Of course, I had a video pre-made for that day because I didn't want it to look like I was away from home. So it was meant to be the next week, but it wasn't. It's going to be May 3rd, 2024. So my first pen is this Parker Duofold International. It's an older one. It has a citrine finish. I find it extremely attractive. But that doesn't matter as much as this piece. This piece. Now, how well does it write? Well, I like it. So Parker Duofold International. There's also a Centennial size that's a little bit thicker. I like that one too. The nib is a little bigger than that. Not that it makes any difference because it's not a flex nib or anything. So I don't know that nib size really makes a difference at all. Herbin Bleu Myosotis. I liked the blue. I absolutely despised the bottle it came in, which was this goofy heart-shaped bottle stoppered by a cork, which was so narrow that only my most narrow of vintage pens could get into it. So, yeah, I'm enjoying this ink a lot more now that I have rehomed it in an Ackermann bottle. This might be a little dark. I'm working on some stuff and didn't get around to working on my lighting. Get to it, just not today. I've always liked this wall outside their student union with all the international flags. I don't know if that's students who are currently going there or what exactly, but I just like the acknowledgement that there's other people. And one fun thing about universities, except one certain one, is that they're always renewing and rebuilding. This is a building that's being torn down. I wonder if it's a chemistry building that had no running water. This is a cool old South Engineering building, which I think houses the physics department, or it did until recently. I love these old buildings. I am so glad when they can keep them and repurpose them and renovate them and yet keep their old character. Because, yeah, handicap accessible entrances are important now. Back then it was just like, throw some stairs in. But, nowadays we have to be more aware of those with different mobility. But, cool old building. And, of course, NDSU is the Bison. It is not the one that is known for the controversy over having a Native American nickname. The NDSU is the Bison. And, yeah, they're bison. Buffalo, as Governor Doug Burgum would tell you, buffalo are in Africa. The bison is a totally different species from the water buffalo. This is Menard Hall, and a couple of years ago, part of it collapsed. So I'm glad they could save it. Alright, the next pen I brought with me was a Sheaffer Legacy 2. So this is a 1990s pen. I needed a pen with me to write in black. Could I have brought my Lamy 2000? Of course, but I didn't. I brought this to be my black ink. And I'm trying to use up this black ink. It is Omas Black, which is a discontinued ink. Nothing that special about it, except maybe that it does not behave well on not amazing paper. Yeah, it's just an ordinary black. Has a little bit of shading. The bottle is nice because you can tip it on its side to help fill the pen. That's always the bane of a fountain pen user's existence is, what do I do when the ink gets low? NDSU campus has some interconnected buildings by a couple of them underground, a lot of them above ground, which, in the winter kind of makes sense. You know how winters are in Fargo. They're awful. So, and some interesting architecture. This is an architectural building. So, anyway, I'm going to show you one other pen, and we'll do an event. My third pen is one I bought. I just had the chance to buy it at a pretty low cost. This is a Platinum President, which is a discontinued pen. I have one I purchased from the nib smith with channel money and had the nib ground. This is not a ground nib. There's nothing special about this pen. I just bought it as is, but it was at a good price, so I thought, what the heck. So Platinum President. And the nib is a medium. I haven't done a video on this particular pen, but I will upload my review of the of the Platinum President in general. I don't know. I may do one of this specific nib. I've done that before, but it's not that interesting. A nice pen. If I hadn't been able to find it for a decent price, I would have just said, well, it was nice while it lasted, and nice model. Sorry to see it go. And that's it. But like I said, I found it for a tempting price. Who knows how much longer you'll find them for tempting prices. I don't know, maybe at some point they'll turn into collector's items. Okay, probably not this model, I kid. But it is a nice pen. It feels good in the hand. I like the nib, even though it's a nail. They don't have any flex or soft versions of this nib, but it is a good nib and a nice, reliable writer. This one, if it wasn't a screw cap, I think could be a nice daily writer pen because it's very comfortable to hold. I think this medium is about what I think of as a fine. I like it. So this is Tower. The competition is to hold the maximum amount of weight compared to the weight of the tower. And there's some other stuff. Had to share that. I recommended that they build it a little weaker so it'd go and break. Their first one at regionals just held all the weight, and it's just like, but how do you compete? So this is where we were headquartered, and we'll close out with one more pen. And my final pen is this Montblanc Monte Rosa Turquoise. A very nice, lower cost pen, but one that I enjoy very much. So Monte Rosa was their low cost version. So you don't find Montblanc pens with, Rosa, with steel nibs, but this has a steel nib because it was more made for students. A market that I think is important because, what? Why would I buy a Montblanc now? I don't know. What would possess me to spend that kind of money? Oh, I know I like Pelicans because I've used the Pelican M200. I've used the Pelican... Yeah, now I'm going to draw a blank. But I've used several low-cost Pelicans. Why would I buy a Montblanc? Dunno. That might be why the newest one I own is from the 80s. I'm sure they're good pens. I just have never owned one and don't really have any interest in owning one, let's be honest. So, anyway, those are the pens that went with me to Fargo. I thought this would be the one I wrote with the most, this Sheaffer Legacy, because it's black. And yeah, I used it a little. To be totally honest, the two I used the most were the Parker Duofold and this Montblanc. Most of my writing that I did with those pens was like some notes and things, like, again, in this same notebook. And yeah, those were just the two I picked out. I pulled this one out a couple of times for a couple things. This was in my pocket most of the time. I like it, but really didn't use it at all. And then, of course, used my remarkable tablet quite a bit. But anyway, so sorry I was late with this. It just is busy time of year, and editing this monstrosity of a project together just got ahead of me, but hopefully it was worth it. Wish I'd recorded more B-roll, but here is an air trajectory event, and I'm going to close out with some flight, and I'll have to talk some other time about why I think Science Olympiad is a good thing, and why it's so wonderful for these kids to get a chance to get out of rural North Dakota and see a research university. So we'll close with some flight. Not long.